I'd like to call to order the January 17th, 2017 meeting of the City of Columbiana Council. We all rise to the invitation and the pledge of allegiance.
Lord, we acknowledge your presence among us tonight. We know you're always with us. We pray for your guidance. Give us the wisdom to work in the best interest of everyone in our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Tonight we have with us the Cub Scouts from PAC 40, and they would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Great. Is it Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts?
Cub Scouts.
Cub Scouts.
If you are in uniform or a serviceman, you may salute. Otherwise, right hand over your heart. Scout salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2.
Thank you very much. And could we have roll call, please? Here. Here.
James?
Here.
Liston?
Here.
Buck? Here. Noel?
Here.
Lakeland? Willard?
Here.
Blaisdell?
You all have you all have minutes of meetings from January 3rd of City Council. Are there any corrections or additions to those meeting minutes? Hearing none, they will stand as presented. We have no reading of communications. You have received reports of boards and commissions from Planning Commission special meeting of December 30th, Parks and Recreation Cemetery Board meeting minutes of December 19th, Planning Commission meeting of January 10th, Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of January 12th. Are there any comments or questions about those minutes?
I'd like to speak to the January 10th minutes of the Planning Commission. Basically, this is kind of how I feel, and it brings in the Planning Commission what they did on their January 10th meeting. And it has to do with naturally chickens. Chickens cannot be raised, sheltered, or kept within the city limits of Columbiana. These are the facts, and they are undisputed. Comes from a few good men. However, the city of Columbiana turned a blind eye for several years to the chickens because they weren't causing any problems. Now, entered Deer Fest 2016. This sheds light on the crazy chickens. They no longer live outside the all-seeing eye of city government. Something has to be done. Let's look at this a little closer. As was stated in one of the last council meetings, it's kind of a north-south conflict. That's what it appears to be. North of town center, HOAs and such kick in. A lot more restrictions, a lot of sizes are smaller. South of town, you don't have typically the HOAs. The lots are a little larger. And maybe the population age has a different light on chickens. It was stated that there were about three residents that complained about the chickens, that they didn't come to the council meetings that we had. Traffic concerns, street lights out, or something like that. Letter to council or casual conversation with a mayor or a council member, that's fine. But this, I think, is a little deeper than that, and I think there should be a commitment made if you want to say something about it. If you remember the idea of the man camp a year or so ago, the chamber was overflowing with concerned residents that wanted to voice their objections. That being said, in the Planning Commission meeting last week, the idea of allowing chickens in the city limits with restrictions came up. Tucker Coach, just off the cuff, kind of got into it, started talking about restrictions, which I thought he was starting to really get a handle on what we needed. That got shot down. But we didn't ask planning commission to come up with any restrictions or anything like that. What we asked them to do was to validate, do we want to change the ordinance or don't we? And they said no. We're a city with a lot of growing pains, and we certainly want to lead the city into the era of unbelievable growth and prosperity. But I don't think restrictive chicken ownership is any way to affect the city's prosperity or growth. I think we're being a little short-sighted on this issue. I would like to make a motion that we send this issue back to planning commission to come up with a reasonable solution to owning chickens within the city limits. Something we can adopt and learn to embrace.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion from council?
I want to point out the support that we continue to get, and look around you. These are our neighbors, and they have come for several months now requesting that we up here as elected officials listen to them and their wants and desires. And I don't think by any means are we ignoring the wants and desires of the other people in the community that may not want chickens if we come up with reasonable regulations. I think it's time that we move forward and respect the wishes of everybody in our community, not just one side or the other.
Other comments? I would just like to say that when we originally asked planning commission to address this issue, my thought was that they would give it careful consideration, examine ordinances in other communities around the state and the country for that matter that allow chickens. Obviously there needs to be a certain amount of restrictions that probably don't fit everywhere in town, and as I said in the previous meeting, I grew up in a house on a lot not too far from here where there's absolutely no way it would fit into that particular area. So I was disappointed that they simply voted very quickly after listening to a few people to not consider it any further. So I would definitely like to see this go back to them and give it due consideration by looking at ordinances in other places and seeing if there is something that does fit the community. Do you have any other comments?
My only thought, and I'm just throwing this out there, with chickens today, goats, pigs, cows, I'm just throwing this out. Where do we draw the line?
Good question.
Well, technically, we're not allowed to have flower beds in gardens, the way our regulations are currently written. So, one way or another, these regulations need looked at, because I'm pretty sure every single person in here has a flower bed and or a garden of some sort in their yard. And that means every single person in here is breaking the law as it is written in our zoning book right now. So there is going to have to be further consideration beyond just chickens. But I think if we start with the chickens, we can tackle each step of the way and make smart choices with each problem.
I just want to go back to what Ted said. That's my concern being on the planning commission. I mean, where is it just chickens? Is that what we're talking about? Or is that all we're talking about? And then we meet multiple times and deal with some of these other subjects. As somebody from the planning commission, I'd like to know what the directive is in this motion.
In my mind, the direction in this motion would be chickens only, no roosters, anything like that. It would be to come up with some kind of restrictions, be it property size, be it distance from neighbors, be it fences. That's an open slate. That's a clear blackboard to work with. And like I said, I think just off the cuff, Tucker came up with some pretty good ideas on the last meeting. things that could be considered. And I think it's worthwhile taking some time, taking a look at it. As I said, chickens have been around here for a while, and nothing was ever said about it. They just went around pecking the ground. Nobody cared. And then the deer brought everything to the surface. And, you know, the city had to react. It had to react to it. You couldn't just say, we're not gonna worry about that, because that was a problem. Once it came to light that this was happening. So, if we wanna keep the chickens, then we have to go in and, change the ordinances to allow chickens. Like I said, it's got to be restricted. It can't be just like farms, just go ahead and have them wherever you want and do whatever you want with them. But I think that there's room to, in the city to allow that to happen. Now, planning commission may say, no, we can't come up with anything, but I don't believe that.
Well, you said north to south, and homeowners, or, which I'm not too familiar with the homeowners, aspect of either homeowners organizations or whatever they are. Would it be restricted in the homeowners, like your condo associations and what have you, or?
Condo associations definitely have restrictions far exceeding what the city restrictions are, and anything that's in a deed covenant or a condo association will not be overridden by, our specific ordinance. That's true now, because, for instance, we allow dogs, but I know there's condo associations that don't allow dogs. We allow fences, there are some condo associations that don't allow fences. So, we would not override anything of that nature. Lance, did you have something to say?
No.
I thought you raised your hand. Any further comments?
Can I say something?
Sure. Would you please come forward and state your name and address?
Sure. Linda Van Dyke. His name is Tom Kemp, off and on from the last time, like 69. Okay, I lived on Spruce Street. I had the big red barn. I had chickens. I also had roosters. I had no complaints whatsoever from any of my neighbors. None. Everybody enjoyed them. And seeing these young fellas here, they do need chickens and pets and whatever. And I don't think it should be eliminated. As far as spacing, well, I don't know why we have to have a fence, just that the places are side by side, the houses. As long as the animals are taken care of and fed and taken care of, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be able to have chickens. Maybe even a limit of 6. But I want to make mention of that, because I had air condoms, and even the fellows from the coal pump that come up the alley, they'd stop, they had little bits of bread or whatever, throw it in the chicken. They didn't care. But I never had one problem with any of my neighbors. None of them.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Deanne, we have a roll call on the motion.
Becker?
No.
Morgan?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Liston?
Yes.
Boggs?
Yes.
Noel?
No.
4 yes, 2 no, the motion passes.
Okay, next we have, recognition of persons, desiring to appear.
Good evening. My name is Colin Campbell. I live at 562 East Park Avenue. And luckily, I learned that this was an issue with our city council through Facebook. I was very, very pleased, and I'd like to applaud Councilmember McBain for bringing this to Facebook so that some of us can be aware of this who don't follow the original news I do. I do not have chickens. I don't intend to raise chickens, but I am a science teacher at Columbiana High School, and I really see a lot of value in having chickens within the city limits. Specifically, they're pets that provide food. They help to achieve sustainability. They help our children learn where their food comes from. And they also help families economically. So I was really, really pleased to see the discussion on Facebook, and I don't know if it's been brought up and how many of you have access to Facebook. And looking at just summarily people I know the property owners in the city, 54 people in the Facebook discussion were in support of looking at hens only with restrictions within the city. 9 people were against, 7 of them made individual posts, and they were all strongman policies. Well, if it's chickens, then it's goats. If it's chickens, then it's deer. It's unfortunate that we had the incident in the fall where people were keeping true wildlife in a caged environment. But hens have long been raised in small areas, and with the proper restrictions, they can be. This isn't something that is limited to rural areas. New York City can successfully keep chickens, so I think that I'm very, very glad that we're reopening that and looking at different venues to create regulations, because specifically allowing hens does not open the door for goats or cows or anything else. And whenever that comes up, that will have to be addressed. It's inevitable that people will exercise poor judgment. But it looks like overall the picture that we see on the Facebook discussion are primarily families with well-kept coops who are simply providing healthier food options for their family at lower cost to their family. I would rather have chickens as neighbors than dogs. Dogs are noisier. 2 hens will cluck after they lay an egg. And the amount of noise that amounts to is about 53 decibels. That would be 2 people conversing. 25 feet away, you can't hear it. And I'm sure that everyone in here has been awoken at some point in time by a neighbor's dog barking or accepting dog food from a neighbor. Chickens kept in a coop aren't going to be defecating on our sidewalks. And so I'm very much in support of this. And I was really happy to see that the views of the community were at least looked at. And I encourage all of you, and especially the planning commission, to take a look at that basic discussion. Thank you very much.
Anyone else desiring to address council? If not, we'll move on to the manager's report.
And first, I wanted to thank the several departments. We had Chief Glad, Doug Sturgeon, and Chief Garrity worked with Graff Electric and Staley Incorporated to get the flaring at the fire station. They went down and took basically 3 departments and 2 outside vendors to get that going. But I appreciate them working together. There's an emergency ordinance on the agenda to amend the temporary appropriations that we passed this December for the water line project and the capital improvement and the new water plant under the water fund.
Last year, is that to pay for the water line?
Yeah, that's to pay for any pays that or bills or invoices that would come from either the water line project or the water plant project. Now, the water line project is that's a different loan than what the water plant project is, but both of them are going to basically Mike's going to have to report in and out on those, even though like the OPWC, I believe they pay them directly, but Mike still has to account for both of them.
Yeah, can I share on that? Just to clarify, we already have gotten the first pay draw basically from the 2 projects. The water plant is through the USDA, the water line is through the OPWC, and there is a process. We just don't say, here, pay me, and there's a process. So I can't pay the contractors until we appropriate the money, and then I'd be in violation of spending public money that isn't appropriated. So that's why we put that in there. I did not have it in the temporary appropriations. I didn't really think that we were gonna get, you know, a pay draw that fast. And, but we have gotten the first on each project, so.
The water line project, are we obligated to pay, invoices on that when you're so far behind schedule?
That is work done, it is been completed.
I don't have any leverage.
Well, there's a retainer built into every one of these projects. And even on a pay draw, whatever they turn in, they're gonna take out part of the retainage. So it's money that we're holding until the project is completed to our satisfaction. And so, depending on the size of the project, there's always like, normally around 10%. So it can amount to quite a bit of money, especially the water plants, but the water plant's moving along pretty good. I know the water line, there's a few problems, but, there is a retainage built into it.
Any other questions? Okay, HRG, engineering firm, been working with the R&D and park improvements. Talked last week with them, and I think we have a possible grant that we can go after. I'm not sure what our chances are, but, we're gonna try to work together, this month to, get an application in. There's really no council action at this point, but, I'll tell you how it goes. I think they'll contact us maybe in March, see if we made it through the first cut, and then we'll move forward. And then, our idea is, it's not all together yet, but, project would essentially cost us $30 million out of pocket, we can look at that. Street departments, of course, they've been out there trying to get the potholes, plowing and salting as needed on servicing, plows. They actually helped us, board up a condemned house, appreciate them doing that. And they're also looking at, speed limit study for 2017, for, various areas that, Jesse's concerned about, coming into town. We just wanna make sure that we're meeting all the regulations. Wastewater department, we performed constant, process adjustments at the, wastewater plant during the rain event. It's, average daily flow that the plant's supposed to take is 2.34. It can handle as much as 4.35 million gallons a day, but the, crews worked last week during that rain. We were actually treating, 11 million gallons at one point. So, hats off to them to do that. We do have a couple we have 1.1 million, gallon tanks down there. There's two of them. When it starts raining, theoretically, the water shouldn't get to the wastewater lines, but it does, due to, infiltration, little cracks in the line. We did not end up bypassing, although we did, come close to it, so those tanks did their job and so did the crews. So that event, I think it was last Thursday, was just very quick, and we were able to, kind of manage it. We performed, maintenance at the Creek Road and Back Bay Shore portable generators, and the portable generator. Water department, continue to work with the EPA and lead and copper compliance. House Bill 512, we're working to identify, map the areas that may contain lead services, that would be the homeowners. We're working with RCAP to do that.
Are we only identifying with this?
We're required, yes, it's a, process. House Bill 512 asks us to, map all the areas that may contain lead lines, and then we have GIS system, that's a marking system that we will go out there and mark, the areas that we think is good. That would be under the homeowner service line.
Okay, so that's all that House Bill 512 entertains?
Currently, right now, that's first phase, March 9th, 2017, and then John will continue to follow that. from the folks that are in those areas that have the possibility of lead or definite lead exposure?
We will, it's gonna be a process. This is just the first statewide that we're trying to do. I think we're gonna be headed to on getting it done. We performed, repair on well number 1 and 7. Talked about the water project a little bit. Yesterday we did a half a pour, that's 374 cubic yards of concrete, and I believe they worked on half of it yesterday. I'm not sure when the next half's gonna go. And then the water line project on the north end that we talked about, they're moving, and they started drilling under Route 14. Park and Cemetery, there were many volunteers, Joy Christmas, actually hundreds. We'd especially like to thank Larry Weber for his help in the removal of Joy Christmas. And thanks to Pastor Jan Winnell from Nazarene Church for their help getting it down. All the displays are down now. I think that's really good. You know, we've been sitting here in March and still trying to take them down. Thank you. Electric department, the 6 primary lines that were brought down by a tree behind the water treatment plant. We had a couple different departments help on that project. Did it without any loss of service. We had Doug attend the water treatment plant process meeting held a couple Wednesdays ago. And he was to put a new pole line out next road and down back to the water plant. And he wanted to kind of tie that in with the current water treatment plant project, so everybody's aware of the schedule. And we hope to get that done within the next, 90 days. Last Thursday, we had a switch went bad. That's when electric outage, 2:09 p.m. Occurred. So the crews had to actually drive out there. They drove all the way through the city and the lines and tried to track it down. And then they did find a problem with the south substation, and then they had to continue to drive the lines, because you don't want to just arbitrarily just put power back on to that, even because you don't want to hurt anybody and make sure there's not a tree down. So a little over 2 hours, they were able to get that back. Appreciate their hard work. Crickle had asked about curbside recycling that we've talked about in the summer. Arrow had given us a quote. It was $30, and we weren't real sure what that was. I did reach out to them. That's $30 a quarter. In essence, that's $10 a month, and that's for one pickup. So I believe that the quote that they had, that they would pick up the second week of the month for their customers that decided to get on that program, and it would be essentially $10 a month. And that would be added to their current garbage bill.
Thank you.
Have they decided to go through with that, or are they just, I mean, obviously we don't have anything to approve because we don't do anything with this.
They haven't advertised or anything. I think they wanted to kind of bounce it off you and see what you thought. I can reach back to Tony from Arrow and have them start advertising.
I think it's a business decision for them, unless we were to create an ordinance that says that they have to offer it, which I guess Salem did, but, otherwise, it's just something that they want to offer. I think they should move forward on it.
If they're gonna offer it, they probably are gonna have to charge a little bit more. One pickup a month, it's pretty expensive. And then having your recycle sit around your garage for a month,
I end up taking ours up every week, and it's a considerable amount of truck.
right direction.
That's all I need.
Okay.
Anybody have any comments on the bill list for, January 17th?
We did have, under manager's report, sorry about that, motion to concur.
Oh, yeah. So you'd like a motion to concur with city manager and police chief on appointment of John Mann to the auxiliary police force for the city of Columbiana.
So move.
Second. Chief, would you like to comment?
After the chief tonight, my voice was going, Kevin, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Would you mind saying a couple words about John Mann? Kevin? Yes. I know you'll ignore me. What about John Mann? Introduce him to council.
John has come to us. He lives in Austintown. He is a current college student at YSU, looking to explore a law enforcement career a little further. He is recommended by another auxiliary member, and he's looking forward to being part of our team.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
What he said.
Deanna?
Sauber?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Liston?
Yes.
Bug?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Okay, now we're to the bill list. Are there any comments or questions on the bill list? Hearing none, we'll move on to old business. Given the length of the ordinances, and the fact that you all have copies of them, can I have a motion to read them by title only?
So moved.
Second.
Deanne?
McBain?
Yes.
Liston?
Yes.
Bug?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Sauber?
Yes.
Ordinance number 17-0-2897, second reading. An ordinance establishing a wage schedule for certain full-time and part-time employees of the city of Columbiana.
So moved.
Second.
As I recall, there were some questions on this last time.
Yeah, so there was a, I think Chris found it was a typo from 2012, so no change was even made in that section. That's, I believe it's 275 and 250. That 275 has been like that since 2012. So, good work on that, we got that, but since the last meeting, realized that I had to put the, new minimum wage in there. So for the part-timers, which up until that, we did not, address any changes with any part-timers in that order.
Okay.
Yeah,
So those are included in the one that we're voting on now, right?
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Deanne?
Liston?
Yes.
Bug?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Sauber?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes. Ordinance number 17-0-2898, second reading. An ordinance prohibiting medical marijuana cultivation, processors, and retail dispensaries within the city of Columbiana.
So moved.
Second.
I'd just like to bring up a couple of things. I know, our mayor was very adamant about bringing this regulation up and, stating that we should, make an example and show the, younger members of our community that we are not giving any leeway for drugs and drug abuse. And I don't know if any of you guys took the time to read it, but I read all 80-some pages of the state's regulations, and it is very strict. There is pretty much no leeway in this regulation that I think we have anything to worry about in regards to allowing our community to have somebody sell medical marijuana. There is, if you've committed federal offenses, you're not going to be allowed to work in this industry. You're not going to be allowed within 500 feet of a school, a church, a library, a playground, a park. The regulations go on that you have to have special licensing to distribute it. You have to have special licensing to grow it. You have to have special licensing to establish one of these businesses that is above and beyond, I think, what we see for even alcohol. To look at it and outright say no, I think we're not really following the recommendations of the state of Ohio and what they have researched based upon what Colorado has seen. They've seen a decrease in crime in their communities because a lot of the petty crime, the petty theft that is commonly occurring with marijuana has gone away because of the legalization of the medical marijuana. There's a 17% tax on medical marijuana in the state of Ohio. And that tax money, some of it is earmarked to come back to our police department. And I know our police department is fortunate that we are not lacking specifically in funding, but that's not a guarantee for tomorrow. We talked about how we are trying to be a progressive and growing city, and one of the things that we're doing is maybe being a little too quick to judge a law that I think, after having read it, is a very well-written law, and I think we're slapping ourselves in the face to just throw that down right away for our own community without actually giving it a chance. So that's my 2 cents.
If you look just a little bit farther into the Colorado thing, okay, the medical marijuana is much more stronger, and the content of THC, okay, is much higher than what might just be thrown out in the farmer's field. And they're finding that it is more detrimental. And it's also, we used to say, okay, marijuana is a stepping stone. Well, now Colorado folks are beginning to think, yes, it is truly the stepping stone, moving, people up. Now, I'm not against the idea for the children or for adults or whatever it is, but closely controlled. I just really don't want to see it in our community.
I think, and that's a valid, I think it's a tough situation for us to be in. I know that reading the regulations, they're going to make sure you can't have gummy bear shaped products that might be enticing to kids. So they are looking at a few things like that, and nobody can have more than a 3-month supply of product on them, so they can't go, oh, well, that's my medical marijuana, and it being something that is illegal. So there are some regulations, I think, that will help protect some of those things. As with any drug that's out there, I mean, Botox, they're using Botox for more than just the wrinkles on our face. It's amazing where things can go, and I hate to cut things off before we actually get a chance to see if it works or not.
I'd rather support our police department from the interior in our city than allow anything to come in such a manner as that.
I believe, too, that the discussion we had was to keep it out of the city, just away from the vision of the kids and things like that. Didn't have anything to do with regulation. I'm sure the state of Ohio is going to regulate it to the full. But just the idea of taking it out of the city, away from the kids, and away from just walking down the street and say, oh, there's a medical marijuana place. Secondly, I think that, I'm guessing about this, but the 17% that's going to come back in tax, the portion that's going to come back to the police, I think my guess is that's going to be statewide. It's not gonna say that, if you don't have it in your city, you can't participate in this tax. Any money that comes back to the city is gonna come back to us whether we have it or not. But,
Well, I think the other thing important here too is that we are not prohibiting the use of medical marijuana by our citizens.
Well, we don't have the right to do that.
Yes, we don't, and that's the whole point. And the only thing that I think is important here is for us to, ban the production, distribution, and sale at this point until we get a broader base of experience within the state of understanding how this affects various communities. Anything we decide, given that if we pass this, doesn't mean that it can't be repealed at some time in the future. And I think I would much prefer to understand, what's going on, rather than having someone at the next, planning commission meeting walk in and say, hey, I wanna put in a distribution shop. And, you know, cause at this point, I don't even think they would understand exactly what the limits are and where it can go and everything.
No, the state
Although
does
the state
have
would control that.
regulations, just
Yeah.
like, for alcohol. Yeah, you can't just say, oh, I wanna open up a bar. You have to follow the state regulations on what you're allowed to do. You can't just serve it to somebody because they're coming in off the street wanting to buy it. They
Right.
have to have a prescription for it.
Okay.
I just wanted to put in my research, because we didn't even really discuss those details.
That's true, and I will admit that I've not read the state regulations, and I appreciate the fact that you have and have related them to us. Any other comments or questions?
Just to reiterate what you said, I think our position last meeting was that we wanted, with all new regulations, we didn't want to be the first to implement those new regulations. We'd rather wait and see how they're implemented, how it works in the implementation process. So I think that was our motive, to wait until another time after we see how that process goes.
I don't really think that we're missing anything. You know, people that have a prescription for medical marijuana, they can go right down the street. I'm sure that they're just outside the city limits, so they'll be selling. So I don't think it puts any kind of imposition on our citizens.
Right.
I just don't think we're missing anything. And the tax is all gonna be from into the city, so.
Okay, any other comments? Deanne?
Opposed?
No.
Noel?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Liston?
Yes.
Okay, under new business, we have an ordinance that, I'd like a motion to read it as an emergency. Deanne?
Noel?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Liston?
Yes.
Hawk?
Yes.
Ordinance number 17-0-2899, an emergency. An emergency ordinance amending ordinance number 16-0-2893 to make temporary appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Columbiana, State of Ohio for the first 3 months of the year ending 2017, year 2017 ending March 31st, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Do you have an idea when we get the, final one of the current expenses and stuff?
The new budget for
Yeah,
2017.
Shoot for the end of February.
Okay. Any other questions? Deanne?
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Liston?
Yes.
Hawk?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Council comments?
I just wanna recognize everybody for being here. This is fabulous. I hope that we see your faces here for more than just chickens and just to say the pledge. To have our members of our community being actively a part of our community is a huge benefit, and we couldn't be the city that we are if it wasn't for all of you guys out there too.
Any other comments? Motion to adjourn.